Around the Ozarks is now on your FM radio. Listen to Around the Ozarks mornings with Grace Gooley as I spotlight local people, stories, and podcasts, all while playing the country legends of the 90s and the hit makers of the 2000s. It's on the Ozarks Best Country, 105.1 The Bull.
Hi, this is Joy Robertson. As many of you know, I love food. I love finding new restaurants. I love trying new dishes. And most of all, I love talking to the many great restaurateurs and entrepreneurs we have here in the Ozarks and beyond. I love hearing their stories, and that's what this podcast is all about, learning more about them and their journey. So join me as we savor the Ozarks. This episode is brought to you by Jim's Steakhouse and Pub, Kitchenland USA, and Springfield's locally owned Fazoli's. I can't tell you how long I have been looking forward to this little chat with the woman behind Ozarks Farm Stop. You've seen it. It's downtown at South Avenue and Walnut. I am with Karissa Kary, and I want to hear the whole backstory, Karissa, of this place. It's just wonderful. The concept is fabulous. I also want to learn about you. Did you grow up here in the Ozarks?
Yes, I did. Born and raised. I did go to jury. I traveled and then did a year in London, did my master's in Ireland later, went down. I left shortly after college and was in New Orleans, did a lot of language and like camp immersion experiences. So I was an ops director for language immersion in about over 20 years. I also was with the Tennessee Williams New Orleans Literary Festival. So I've had these kind of hybrid life of these, I like to think of it like experiential education, experiential activities. So camps for kids, theater in Louisiana, and then here, farmers markets and that. So I've kind of jumped around, but they've all been at that intersection of maybe where culture, arts, bringing people together, educational, like immersive experiences. And so that's kind of the thing that lights me up and makes me want to go to work and do things. So.
Man, I could talk to you for a solid hour just about your education and your life. That's so interesting. What was your major when you went to Drury?
like all good, kind of jumper entrepreneurs, philosophy.
Of course it was. Okay, I can kind of see how that would fit into all that you've done. Yeah,
I can say so. Philosophy, English literature, then really enjoyed that, and then did my master's in philosophy and international peace studies in Ireland, and so had a really. It's funny because that really took me through immersion programs, process, working with young people, theater. So a lot of mediation. I joke, what's the best way to manage a herd of cats? Have a degree in mediation. That's one way.
That's fascinating to me. But at the beginning, when you were telling me, you went to Drury and then you did all these things and you traveled and you went to these camps, I'm thinking, okay, farming, agriculture. Did you grow up on a farm? Where did you? That's what I'm looking a little bit still for the connection.
So my family are ranchers. They came here when I was born. They brought cattle from South Dakota. Easier to raise, fewer, less land, more cattle sort of thing. And so they were also tired of the South Dakota winters. And so they came here. I was born here. That all happened within quick succession of a few weeks. They moved right before I was born. And then I grew up going back and forth to a ranch just outside of town. They later eventually built there out by southwest of here near Wilson's Creek, so still Springfield area, absolutely. And I grew up with my extended family, South Dakota and others, definitely ranchers, farmers, growers, producers. So it's in the background, right? It's the kind of the background of my life. Grew up going to stockyards, gardening, growing, those things. So, and didn't necessarily love it. Like a lot of people that find themselves, I always say it jumps a generation. So you see a lot of people leave farming, and there's a whole lot of energy right now to see succession planning. How do we keep people in ag? And that's really important. But it never surprises me when I meet someone who kind of grew up that way, who is like, nope, because it is such hard work, right? And so for me, I kind of full circled back, mixing it again with while doing ops. I keep talking about the like language learning and the theater. My whole life has been kind of this highly seasonal sort of work. And then coming back to Missouri, I like to tell the story that my dear friend, who's the manager of the farmers market of the Ozarks, I had said, this is such a great market. I mean, here I am traveling, and I'm in LA and New York and London, all these wonderful places, and I love like farmers markets and that. And I think when I come back here to Springfield, I just think this is one of the best things going on. Like, this is such an intersection. It's dynamic, it's fun, and I love markets. So that's a long lead in to say that I said, I'd love to be involved. And I was thinking more farm to table dinner. And the next thing I knew, I was asked to be on the board. And so, which is flattering, of course. And then as treasurer, kind of things kept moving, and it made sense at some point to, I became the director. I was the director with her as the manager for up until this last year. And this Ozarks Farm Stop really was a reaction to seeing what the farmers themselves and producers needed, as well as seeing the shortages of what outside of a farmer's market farmers are able to produce and grow because they don't have a route to market. So in talking with these farmers, I mean, I love to say this, the farmers market of the Ozarks is a wonderful success story of when I came in, I believe the annual income was $850,000 or so for the vendors, which is great. But last year, prior, it was over $2 million in that same amount of time. So what is exciting is for those families and farmers, they've been able to expand that model. I'm also the president for the Missouri Farmers Market Association. So Missouri has a thriving farmers market culture, and I share that to say I have a lot of information. Sometimes people go, how do you know that? Well, through the Missouri Farmers Market Association, talking, I mean, I've watched thousands of small businesses incubate, and I love to talk about farmers markets and small businesses, though, as economic generation. Sometimes when we think about agriculture, people jump to like row crops and ranches, but in fact, those small producers have this amazing opportunity if they can get a route to market. And I know you asked a few different things there, but one thing that's really important, I want to say it earlier instead of later. The Farm Stop model is an economic generator, but it's also a disruptor. So I'll ask you, hey, Joy, how much money do you think at a conventional shop, on average, farmers make? So if you buy a tomato for $1, how much do you think that dollar goes to the farmer? Conventional store.
A conventional store, like a store that I would walk into. I'll tell you, I know nothing about what you have just been telling me about. So I would guess half?
15 cents. 1.5. That is the national average. And maybe later I can show you, but I mean, we have it in here. The Missouri Farmers Union has put together data here. It's even less for what we would think of like grains, things like this. It's a little more at auctions, things like this, but 15 cents is a fairly well documented number that farmers take home. A lot of that goes into transportation, marketing, culling, and of course the shops themselves, often they're buying outright. And so they're also taking on loss. Conventional stores operate on 30 to 40% profit versus here, our operating budget is on 25% because the farmers maintain 70 to 75 cents. And now I'm going to throw in more math, which is to say, at a farmer's market, the farmers maintain almost all of that, right? So it's a direct transaction, but they have to be there, right? They have to stand there, and they are effectively, at a loss if it's a rain day. There's some data that suggests maybe one in four markets is kind of a bust because of weather. I would say, having looked in Missouri where we are, we get pretty lucky. It's actually like 1 in 5. So we get a little better like gift on that. But that's not, that fifth market, if you will, that's a terrible rain day. You can't put those tomatoes back on the vine. Specifically for produce, you're at a real loss, right? And you have to account for that in your margins. If you have something like candles or things like this, you can fare better. But so the idea of the Farm Stop is that you have a route at the end of that market to bring your stuff to make 70, 75 cents on the dollar and not be operating a brick and mortar for 6 days a week, which itself is an attractive thing for a lot of farmers. I also, back to the Missouri Farmers Market Association, I know some of the top, what I would call income generating farmers markets in the state, including a couple here in Springfield, Webb City, the City Market, Parkville, in Kansas City, near Kansas City, Bentonville, Fayetteville. They all have wait lists to get in, which means if you, Joy, are a small producer, you probably aren't producing enough to even go there, but also they don't have the room. So that's, you can see the catch-22 that's happening here, right? So,
yeah, and that's the difference right there. When you said that they have to literally be there at the farmer's market, whereas the farm stop, they drop off their goods. As a matter of fact, I came in today to talk to you, and you said, because there are different days a week that you sort of stock up on one day, and then other days you offer lunch and things like that. And we'll get into that. But you made the comment that someone brought a bunch of bread today. Mm-hmm. And I think they brought, I don't know how much, and it looks like there's maybe one loaf left, but they have a place to go and they don't have to stand here all day.
Exactly. And that's, again, the idea is that so at a successful, I'm going to say economic, I am a fan of farmers markets, so I'm picking my words really carefully. There are some small markets out there and the farmers still do well, or there's some small markets where they eventually become an artisan market, right? Because the producers don't go as much because maybe it's a brewery or something like this, and that's an artisan market is wonderful. But to get your producers there has to be enough turnaround with the produce that's coming in. So the people that came in today were going to the farmers market in Branson, I can tell you that. So they were on their way. Those producers that come in earlier in the week, Saturday we get a lot, but we don't limit when our farmers come in. So this was a response to how can we, there's a line about farm stops, which is if farmers grow food, but farm stops grow farmers. So when I went to a conference 2 years ago in February, is this is the idea? Does this work for us? Is this what it can be? That's where I realized the reason this is called a farm stop, not just like a cute little shop, is because it's a noun, and I wanted to be able to educate people that this is not just a cute little store. It is a way to pass a large sum of money, as much as we can, within still keeping the lights on and paying rent, to the farmers. And it's a concept that's working. So we are the 19th farm stop in the U.S. There are at least 20 more opening right now as we speak. There's one in the works probably in Joplin, looking in Kansas City, Fayetteville, on and on. There are many, many, but I always point out too, in Georgia, they are looking at 4 rural farm stops. And because what they found is, so even though these kind of started in Ann Arbor, like-sized cities to Springfield, places like that, and they were doing well, which gave me confidence, they're actually doing well in some smaller rural areas as well. So the first one in Missouri was Roots and Harvest in Ash Grove, and they did very well there. They're actually transitioning to another location. But why I'm sharing this is that's a very small town. And they were able to keep that momentum going, and that's really exciting. And then for us, you said where we're located. You can also say it's a pretty large location, right? So we are able to scale it a different way and we do food boxes, our community supported agriculture. We have lunch. We're able to do that because we actually have the space as well. So that's exciting, and it's also really exciting to see that. This is, like I said, there's the 4 rural ones in Georgia. There's a couple of rural ones opening in Arkansas. Joplin's certainly not a small town, but there's this interest right now. It's kind of, I say, trending. I think that consciousness of people wanting local produced food as well as to support farmers is at a tipping point, and you're seeing that with the response we've had.
Talk about your location. Downtown. And I don't know, I just think it might strike some people as unusual. Downtown, because you hear people say, oh, I haven't been downtown in a long time. Maybe it's hard to park the car. It's this, it's that, I live south, or I just don't go. But this has turned out to be a really good spot. I mean, I love this spot, but what's been the response?
So I always love to point out to people, because the parking, everyone, I will remind everyone that there are 30 plus spots directly behind here, as well as a lot of street parking, but also that from the square to here is closer than, the back of Walmart to the entrance point. And I love to tell people that, because we are such a driving culture. And if I'm picking a little bit of fun, it's because my big thing is like, let's get out there, let's walk. There is plenty of parking. And so I do always bring that up. It is as close to, by the way, you don't have to park on the square. There's closer parking. But
right, but your point being, if you
could walk from the square to here in the same amount of distance as the Walmart Supercenter back wall to the entrance. Okay, that's how legs work and feet work.
That is so funny. That's just a great way to put it. But the Wheelers building, there's a gate there, but it's open and people can come in there and park, and there's tons of places, and it's just, there's windows all around for the most part. And boy, you have expanded since you started.
So we came in and we were in that, what was the front, like kind of quadrant, which is about 2,000 square feet. People might remember it was Seattle's best. Mm-hmm. It was a coffee shop. Then after only a handful of months, we were able to take down the mural that was betwixt like the front quarter and the second back. So if I were to break this down, it went from 2,000 square feet to 4,000 square feet. But this is a 10,000 square foot outlay. So now we're finally pushing back. If you peek around the corner, which you did, you can say, I mean, it's like kind of chaos. You can see a work in progress. But this front, section we're feeling good about. And it's allowed us to, when we opened, we had onboarded. We had lots of interest, but we were only able to onboard probably 40 when we opened in September. And now we're over 100 different vendors are in here onboarded. So that's those produce, lots of meat. I was telling you before, like bison, we've got rabbit, we've got so unusual mangalitsa pork, like these different unique varieties. Those are all local producers. Everything in the shop is within 100 miles as a crow flies to get here. So it's highly local. And those are all, just like I would say about farmers markets, those all represents 100 small businesses, family-owned businesses, or small businesses in this community. And that is such a great way for them to be able to, what we talk about, like stacking your income. So if they make, let's say, $20,000 at the farmer's market, and they then can generate another $20,000 here, and then one of the spouses is a teacher. Now all of a sudden we've got what I would call a living wage compared to what middle class income is here. And I just share that because that's the important thing for me, and to make sure that these farmers and producers that are doing this incredibly hard work are motivated to keep putting seeds in the ground, get the food as local as possible, but also, and if I said this already, but if farmers grow food, farmers market, or farm stops and farmers markets, but farm stops grow farmers because it gives them a way to come in and not feed the pigs the leftovers, which is what happens. And I love to joke that all the pigs in Southwest Missouri are really angry at me because they're just eating a bunch of slop now. They were getting like the good stuff, like aftermarkets, and now they're not, because a lot of food that would have gone to waste is ending up here, which is, I hope, a lot of people's goals.
What are some of the things that you have out there? I was walking through today, and right now we're approaching mid-June, early June when we're having this conversation. There's some gorgeous tomatoes. And I mean, I see a tomato that looks like that, and I'm thinking BLT right off the bat. You know what I mean? I'm seeing strawberries still. I'm seeing gorgeous greens. I'm seeing flowers. But there are pillows. There are aprons. There are candles. There are salts. There are so many products. I've been in here shopping for gifts before to share with people that I'm visiting that don't live here. What are some of the more unusual things that people might not expect to find?
Well, no, thank you for that, because it is, when you look around, we try to make the point of like the market share that farmers keep, but that this is like a 6-day-a-week farmers market. So these are
6 day a week.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another thing, all year long.
All year round, 6 days a week. Some of the more unusual things, I will say most of the vendors and producers that are in here are at one of any number of farmers markets in this area. Almost all of them, not all, but almost all of them. Several of them are at several farmers markets in this area. So this is an outlet for them, especially, I don't know, they want to go on vacation. They want to.
Imagine that.
They get sick. Maybe they have an event they want to go to. So this is an opportunity in that way. But in terms of like things that are here that, farmers market that you might not think about, we have a lot of the different types of meat that are here, just like at a farmers market, but only large ones. So you're getting those varietals. We have quail eggs. We have 4 different types of tomatoes out there right now. And I remember, again, we just opened in September, but I mean, in September or October, I remember going out and we took photos. It was like we had 12 different varietals of peppers, but they were small quantities, right? Because the producers were able to. So it was this beautiful, different selection. Right now, you said we've got, postcards. We've got that were hand painted. We actually have some beautiful, the honey people. Something that they do, one of the honey producers, they use beeswax, colored beeswax, to do almost, it looks like watercolor, like heat press. So every Thursday, we at 6:00, we do what I call the Farmer's TED Talk. And so it is, I share with this audience, it's low or no cost every Thursday at 6:00. Usually free. Let me just be really clear. Almost always free. It's a demo. It's a sampling. We've had people make your own mocktails. The demonstration of how to do the beeswax painting.
They take an iron. I was on your Facebook, and there's some video there. So go to the Ozarks Farm Stop Facebook page. But there's video of somebody taking a hot iron and some beeswax and making almost like a painting out of it.
Exactly. It's beautiful. And I had no idea. So there were several people here. We've had make your own bouquets. So the people that local growers come in, do their own night. We had a wonderful group, husband, wife, and they are egg farmers actually. And so, but the wife, she does upcycled like old T-shirts and makes these beautiful rugs. They're actually, so she had her loom here, and I'm sure people might be familiar with this idea, but hers are quality. And so she did a class on how to do that. People are arranging succulents. We've had people do elderberry syrups. So we had kind of a natural, not medicine, but like medicinal plants, talking through that. So we've had foraging classes. So every Thursday, it's varied, is what I would say. Something for everyone. Typically, like kid friendly. Like the kids came in. We had a make your own, I say cologne or perfume. So people brought in essential oils and did like those roll-ons. So you and I would love it, but also the kids were able to find their own scent, and it was several of them made it for themselves or a parent, which was really sweet. So some fun stuff, and we did that honestly as an opportunity for these, field experts, if you will, to showcase. And that's why I call it like the Farmer TED Talk. I've got, somebody came in and was like talking about tallow and how to process that, what it's useful for. And so everyone's an expert in something, as you well know. But for them to be able to share that, some of them get some good, B-roll, as you like, they get some good copy, they get some opportunity, and it's a way for them to showcase. But it's also a way for us to bring people in and get a sense, something, again, I keep saying like low or no cost, but something fun, something different.
I just love this, and it just makes me I just feel so useless sometimes, because I think I can barely put a tomato plant in the ground that I buy at the, at Lowe's and hope to keep the thing alive. Wow. And when I think that these farmers work these farms, and it is hard, and they might get 15 cents on the dollar for that big, beautiful tomato, it just makes me, I'm just shocked.
Well, I've got a few of the producers I'm working with, and their goal is, some people in Missouri might know there are these things called like produce auctions, and that's very low cost typically. So some of the growers I'm working with, their goal is to not be at produce auctions, right? Sometimes they'll go and they'll, barely make back the cost of the boxes, let alone the labor. So the idea is to really, I love that was their self-directed goal, not mine. And I was like, great. So it's been really rewarding to see that. And then I guess I wanted to say too, back to the the classes, that was part of it. Like, how can we learn? So one of the great classes I thought was, it was gardening with disabilities or gardening for small spaces. So for people and students or people maybe that live in lofts or this, but also this person does, it is a person who gardens with disabilities. And so, it was showing how with X amount, like I think it was like $30, how to do plant starts and things in your space. And it was such a great class. And I mean, again, lots of people could enjoy it, but I thought, what a wonderful thing to share. So I do encourage people to check that out. Like, it really is a wide range, and we usually have them built out a couple of months out in advance.
Yeah, that is interesting, because you see people sometimes they have a small balcony or maybe a little bit of a backyard. There are things that you can do. You don't have to have acres of land necessarily to do something. But there are a lot of people out there like me don't have the slightest idea how to do this. But these farmers do it so well, so well. And I think just taking the time to come in here and look around will make you appreciate that.
Absolutely. And, 100% of the things in here are made locally by someone. So we've got ArtCAD, who does like art classes. She does really beautiful book binding. She's done a class on that. Does aprons and things, but I would say very high end, very nice, things. So when you said things you might not expect, I didn't expect that we would have so many soil amendments. So back to growers know growing. So we've got these like bokashi, which is like fermented. It's a Japanese methodology of like soil amendments. We've got worm casings, which are very good for soil. We've got biochar, which is another thing so those are all natural. They're all here locally produced, but I didn't think when I was thinking about this place, I wasn't thinking about soil amendments, but with all the plants and everything that are here, it made sense, right? And these are local groups that create these as well. So
soil amendments, I've never heard that term before. Okay, you mentioned before we started this conversation, we walked around the farm stop, and you talk about the coffee grounds, and the unhoused people who collect the coffee grounds.
So that was something interesting that just being here. So the Bokashi Club is, I don't know that they're a nonprofit, but what they do is they collect coffee grounds, and then they, as I understand it, it's a whole process, but they extract the oxygen almost. So it's almost fermented instead of regenerating it somehow or something. We'd have to ask them. But my point is that it's a soil amendment. So this is a way that some local people that are here, they are able to give a little bit of time working an opportunity to pick up some work, basically, and be useful. So that's something that I had no idea. But when they approached me, I was like, yes, wonderful. And it actually ties in nicely. The biochar and the other things, that's not them. But it was like, it's a great thing. It's a great service. And then some of the farmers also are able to use that Bokashi Club soil and then use it it's kind of like an amendment. It adds value to that topsoil level. So, yeah.
So these folks will go around here and elsewhere and just pick up coffee grounds. Is that right?
A lot of growers know. I mean, this is why a lot of coffee shops, you can get just the grounds and things. People like that. The fermenting of this, though, it kind of takes it to that next level. So it kind of, just coffee grounds are good, but they kind of do a couple of things to it that make it that next kind of amended level, as I understand it. But I've read about it, I've heard about it, and then again with the other ones, it's kind of it's a natural way to recharge the soil, because one of the things we know is that a lot of large ag, they're over processing the soil. So I've heard it said, food as medicine is a thing that just got passed here in Missouri, followed kind of over from Oklahoma rather. And so food as medicine says that, basically it's a way in which a lot of doctors, people can look at eating healthier. So instead of just going through the medicinal route, you're actually looking at that first intake of food. But one of the things that happens when you look at mainstream farming is, and here's a stat, I'll say it's something like, if you and I were to go get a conventional orange, right? So we wouldn't get it here because we don't grow oranges in Missouri, but if we were to go get a conventional orange, we would need to eat, I believe it's 17 of those to get the nutritional level that was in an orange something like 40 years ago. And that's because of soil erosion and the nutrient loss there, which is why if anyone's, pays attention to USDA and this, there's a lot of energy around regenerative farming and soil, and that's that's because of that, what I just said. So it's sort of like when you take out the topsoil, the nutrients of that, the rest of that story is that the food that you're consuming doesn't have as much nutritional value in it. So that's usually through conventional farming practices. And I am and am not an expert in those things, if that makes sense. But I certainly, through all of this, know enough to feel good on that. Now, not every small farmer is doing what you would call certified organic or this, but all of the farmers in here have embedded with their processes. So they're using, if not organic, close to, they're using natural processes. And it is fair to say that most small farmers and producers absolutely focus more on soil and that sort of regenerative because they have to, because they're smaller in scale. Some of the large, when you think about row crops, those are single crop yields, and they leave. So, for example, corn, you could pick corn 3 times. If you and I grew corn in our backyard, there would usually be 2 or 3 kind of that they would come in at different times, right, on the same. If you and I were to drive to Iowa and get on a big machine and harvest all that corn, usually that's ethanol corn, but in this story it's sweet corn. It would leave like a third to a half of it on the plant itself, and that's not able to be, that's just lost. Does that make sense? So a lot of food isn't even brought in. Again, Iowa might not be the best because a lot of that is not human consumption. And since we're talking about this, I do think something I didn't know, but I've learned over the years is, so when we're talking about food, right? That's what we're talking about, food. In USDA, food isn't called food, it's called specialty crop. So everything you eat is called specialty crop. And when they talk about, production and agriculture, they're talking about what is fed to animals and like for ethanol and stuff. And I just find that like it's such an upside down way when you actually are a small farmer, because you don't even get to say food. You have to go, we're specialty crop. Specialty crop is anything you and I would eat, which is wild to me. I just think that's a kind of a upside down world there that we're living in.
Well, if I'm ever shooting the bull with somebody from USDA, at least I'll say, I'll throw out that term and, act like I know what I'm talking about.
Some people check the weather. Others check our soup of the day. Hi, this is Jim with Jim's Steakhouse and Pub. Our soup of the day changes, but the comfort never does. Just check with your server, because nothing takes the edge off a cold day like whatever's simmering at Jim's.
When you walk through those legendary doors, you're gonna find there's so much to love. So do yourself a favor, dig that service and flavor. Jim's Steakhouse and Pub.
Have you heard the news? Kitchenland USA in Nixa has expanded with a new 2,000 square foot addition. Now they're fully dedicated to your kitchen and bath projects from start to finish, and it's all under one roof. Stop by the new showroom to see and touch the newest sinks, tubs, walk-in showers, faucets, lighting displays, tile and flooring, all in one showroom.
Kitchenland USA, newly expanded kitchen and bath showroom in Nixa, where your vision is our mission. When you're responsible for feeding a group, you want it to be simple. And, of course, you want everyone to love it. Fazoli's Catering makes it easy with baked pastas, pizza, fresh salad, and our famous signature garlic breadsticks. It's a great fit for any size office lunch, meeting, family gathering, team meal, or any occasion. Find the menu and order online at Fazoli's.com.
Fast, fresh, Italian Fazoli's.
It's such an interesting concept, and it sounds like it has just been tremendously well received by the people in and around the 417.
Well, and I think that, again, I said tipping point. I think a lot of people they know they want to support farmers. They know they want to eat healthy, and there's an easy way there. I will say we do CSA boxes, which is community-supported agriculture. People know those. Sometimes you go to a farm and you help. Here, what I think is fun for us or interesting is that you're supporting like 7 or 8 farms, right? So you're going to get this one's fresh greens, this one's tomatoes, this one's, rutabaga. And that's the same also, I'll just parlay that into when we do lunch, which we do Wednesday through Sunday. So Wednesday through Sunday, 11 to 2, it's like a lunch brunch. And we do have vegetarian alpha-gal options. But you're not just supporting like, here's the sandwich. You're getting this one's meat, this one's eggs, this one's microgreens, this one's fresh tomatoes, and it changes. We call that our pasture plate. And so that was based on kind of a plowman's lunch, like in the UK, right? So a plowman's, I joke, poor man's charcuterie. So, but you have this sampling of all whole foods, all local foods, and much like we call them our harvest boxes, the CSA, in this plate itself, you're able to do a sampling of, I think the most we've ever gotten on a plate was like 13 different producers or farmers stuff. So it's a fun way to eat your way around the Ozarks and like try a bunch of different things.
Who does the cooking for these lunches?
So we have Liz. Liz is wonderful, and we there is a core group here that we mix things up. But I feel really lucky. So Liz, just to talk more about food background and stuff, kind of came at the very beginning and was like, "Listen, this is my sort of store. I love it. I'd love to. I was involved in food for a long time. She didn't go into details, but almost said, will you have me? And if not, can I volunteer? And so
I want to be part of this.
I want to be part. And so I looked at her resume, and I realized that Liz had been, early days of Austin Whole Foods. And if you don't know that shortcut, what that means is that was the flagship for Whole Foods before it went corporate, before it did all those things. And then she'd moved to Kansas City and worked with Whole Foods there. And so why I'm sharing that, though, is for me, not having a grocery background, but knowing, like, if there's a model, not that we're trying to replicate, but that from its original core, I'm not talking about the global Whole Foods, what it is now, but where it started was very much closer to this, which was local, healthy. So I just had fun with that. So it was fun to me that she didn't mention that, but in reading between the lines and talking with her. And so she does a brilliant job, stuff that she did with Whole Foods probably 30 years ago, like building out and stuff. So, and I mean, also she's had her own career and life and done really interesting things, but we all think the world of her. If you've come in during the afternoon, you've almost certainly talked to her. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So does she take whatever's available, or does she like maybe go to a producer and say, I need a little extra bacon, or I need extra whatever this week because I want to make something?
We do that a little bit, but what's also great about this is when you think about waste, like we're able to look at things and go, okay, this is ready to go. So again, if you have the pasture plate tomorrow or the special tomorrow, it will look similar like Thursday or Friday, but it might look 3 new things could have popped into it by Saturday or Sunday, right? So we're working very like farm to fork here. Like, so what is here? What's ready? So that's the answer is yes, she can do that. But I mean, what we find is like we've got this great ongoing thing. So people, some people love that. Think of it more like a daily blue plate special. What you get is what you get, and so, but we do post it on our socials, and we do that so people know. And that's why I kind of started with, we always have a vegetarian, an alpha gal, a gluten-free. We definitely always have that as a sensitivity in there. But, if you only want one type of thing, babe, it may not be the best thing because it's going to look a little different every day. So,
well, I've met Liz. I just did not realize that's what she did here. What a fun environment
it is
to spend your day.
It is, and I mean, what I get, the team that's here, so back to, we have all these vendors and farmers that come in, and that's wonderful. Some of them do an occasional shift, but not many. Remember, for most of them, it's like they want to drop this off, but we treat them like rock stars. Like they come in, it's like, hey, welcome. Again, there are probably 5 different people that came through today, met others, etc. Then there's a core group of us here, and it's an amazing team. It's Liz, Lacey, Sam, Ember, and we've been here since the beginning, kind of making things happen, and a few others, Jesse from the market, Sandy and Wes. That's kind of that core group, and you'll meet one of us here at any different time. So yeah, it's been a really nice thing, and I think you could say for sure that it's a really friendly team. They all love what they're doing. We enjoy engaging with people, talking about the food itself. So all of us have more than an amateur understanding of like the growing practices, what's coming in, what's in season, and that's part of it, right? So, yeah.
So people can come in really not having maybe shopped at a place like this before and kind of give you an idea of what they're interested in, what sort of ingredients they want, and you can advise them and probably show them things that even more than they dreamed might be in this space.
Well, and I think it's like if you came in today, peaches are just coming in right now. There's some beautiful peaches out there.
There sure are. I saw those.
But those are some of the earliest ones that are grown here. And it was the same. Now, what's fun about Ozarks Farm Stop as opposed to Springfield, we're able to pull a little bit from Arkansas too, which is like a couple of growing conditions south. So we had the wave of Arkansas strawberries, which was wonderful. And then, if you remember, we had those terrible storms. So Missouri strawberries, the plants, just a lot of them were devastated. And so we kind of lost that middle, as Missouri ones were coming, southwest Missouri strawberries were coming in, a lot of them were destroyed. So that wasn't great. But then you go up a little north of us, and those are coming in now. So that's been fun to see kind of the different farms, how they're each reacting literally kind of as the sun moves, so that's kind of fun for me.
What are some of the things that people come in like, and I've referred to this before, in different cities, you go and you go to a meat shop and you go to a cheese shop and then you go to the bread store. What are some of the things that pretty much every single day people come in looking for? Do you have people who come in to get fresh this every day or fresh that, fresh bread, fresh meat?
So we have local dairy, and we're really happy about that. That's someone who spent the last couple of years getting their dairy license approved. They've been producing for cheese, but milk is different. So we definitely have this. This is as much of a localized grocery store as it possibly can be, and we're continuing to build out those vendors and people. So have an Arkansas rice grower who's bringing rice up now. I've got some people that are doing milling that will be able to, because they have to work in a commercial kitchen to be able to have things here. So those things are growing. So people come here for, honestly, they come here for snacks, they come here for bread, they come here for produce, and we're getting more, but I say like the European model, people coming after work to pick up, so they don't have to stop at another place to pick up a bag of potatoes. They can pick up that milk, a few potatoes, a tomato or two, and go on their way while they're leaving downtown.
And cook it tonight when they get home fresh, but not everybody wants a giant bag of potatoes.
Exactly. And so, sometimes I always look at the food, system. There's a place for everyone in it, right? Like sometimes we need that big stuff, a box store for this or that, but as much as you can kind of get the things you need for a meal or two, that's helpful, or offset it too. Even if you're like, well, I can't do all my shopping there. Well, are there certain things here that make sense that, that are the right fit for a family or people? And so I like to think that there's a certain type of person who understands that style of shopping intuitively. And then there's people who've never shopped like that, right? They've done the weekly only. So it's interesting to see that. And I think, it doesn't help that prices for food are rising so much. So you're seeing some people that are kind of coming at it, sadly, for the other way, which is prices are so high they can't do, what used to cost $100 in their grocery cart now costs $200, right? Or maybe that's a little bit, but people, that's a real thing that's happening. Here, I am happy to see you can go out there. The prices, we don't set the farmers' prices. They set them. They are competitive. And they're certainly, I will say, more local and delicious and supporting, but they are competitive and there's a range. So there are eggs out there for $3 a dozen that are locally sourced, there are also eggs out there for $8 a dozen. Just this week, I was at a grocery, and I can tell you that's very competitive. Okay, so yeah, and I'm talking about the eggs that the other store were not locally free range local farmers, and that's what it is. We all have to make those decisions, but these 100% are. As a matter of fact, one of my egg producers is an 8-year-old girl, and that is she brings us 8 dozen every week. That is our smallest grocer, our vendor in stature and in amount. So she brings these in, and that's her contribution to the farm, and that's what she does. And she's lovely. That is a very small producer even for us, but it's how could you say no to that, right?
Right. I think that's charming. I love that. I would love to meet her sometime. Do you have to overcome some people who really have not spent much time at farmers markets and don't really get it, and they've always just done the grocery store, and they think, oh, that's a little too crunchy for me. I don't understand that. Like, have you had to kind of overcome that, or can you give me like an example of a couple of wins in that department where somebody's come in and said, I don't know how this works, and now they're customers?
No, and absolutely, and that's what's been fun. So that's why, again, the reason it's Farm Stop in the name is when we talk about that economic part, I think that light bulb goes off for a lot of people, and they go, oh wait, so this is able to support that family. I will tell you what's been fun too is early data of farm stops suggests that places that have good farmers markets have good farm stops, and places that have good farm stops have good farmers markets, which seems to be the case here. But why I'm sharing that with you is that farmers markets, as I said, some days have rain days, or some people work Saturdays or Sundays, or the weekends they're gone. And how do you fill that in? To me, this is a part of that healthy ecosystem, because you're gone for the weekend. Great, you can still come by and on the farm side, get that stuff from your favorite producer. And I've seen that success story where, again, a farmer injured themselves, they were having a hard time at market, they could leave their stuff here and still get that income going, right? Or coming in. The same, I mentioned vacation, but some vendors, they can direct people here if they actually can take a vacation. And I've had several vendors just say this has been a blessing for them, because they're able to bring their stuff here, direct some of their traffic, if they're gone here. And that's a big win, because they're not having to sit here and be here we're open 51 hours a week. Okay, so it's 6 days, but 51 hours. They're not running a store for 51 hours. And I can say another win is I've had people, a couple of vendors who were at the farmer's market, then went to a brick and mortar, realized that even though they were doing well, that they were running a brick and mortar for 51 hours and they were paying a manager and on. And then they've come back to a hybrid of the farmer's market and here, because we became their brick and mortar, and then they were able to reconnect with their customers and that. So that's been an interesting thing. And I think it's really important, back to there's not one size fits all. Those are success stories because that was what was right for them and their family. They didn't want to lose the 51 hours. They love the farmers markets, but they needed more than that. That's a full circle journey though, right? And again, I won't say names, but those are people that were doing well in said brick and mortar. Right? But from a lifestyle standpoint, it didn't make sense. What they were giving up in hours didn't make sense for that transition in income. So, again, like that's win-win-win, but it's something that I hoped that would be the case when I learned this, the term Farm Stop or the concept. And again, it's not the newest idea. There are food co-ops and things like this. The difference is here, though, is that they kind of get the co-op experience, but without all the responsibility of it, right? And so, and again, depending on where people are, 2 hours, 3 hours away, working at a co-op may not be the right fit for them either. I share that because that's also kind of in that parallel play of what a farmer's market, a co-op, a farm stop, a farm stand. These are all in, sort of the same circle, but they kind of serve different functions.
I just hope somewhere there is a farmer and his or her family sitting on the beach right now thinking, thank God for Ozarks Farm Stop, because I can still bring in a little money, people can still get my product, and I get to take a little time off,
Exactly. It's funny you say that, because I was talking to one who was in Florida today.
There you go. That's how you do it. I absolutely love that. And I actually did a little homework before I came in, and we've gone down the list of so many of the things you do. I mean, plants as medicine, that must have been a really good... You're going to do that one again, I hope. I'd love to be a part of that.
That was Heather Duff, and we've also had Forger Bo Brown here. So we've had different ones, and absolutely, that was a really well-attended evening, and we were just talking the other day, and she would like to come back. So what's fun for us is that, we I will say, do pay attention, because it's not like we do the same class again and again and again and again. And even Art Cat, who I mentioned, she did a bookbinding class. She did a found poetry class. So different people are bringing different things to do and to talk about. So I share that with you. Someone missed the loom class, and I had like 2 messages like, when is the loom class going? I'm not sure. It'll probably be a while, because they just did it.
The people who teach these have to love that they hear from people and say, oh man, I missed it. I want to do it again. So again, those of you listening, I would invite you to go to the Facebook page for Ozarks Farm Stop. Where else can we find you? I mean, you've got a website.
So Instagram and also Facebook, and then our website, we do keep it updated like on the calendar page there. And when we said that too, another fun thing that's been able to happen is we've speaking of classes and people coming in and preparing food with us, right? So showcasing their different things, but from the farm stop. We have someone that's Fridays and Saturdays, 9 to 5, doing locally sourced, but Brazilian treats. She's from Brazil, so Café Bom Dia, so it's kind of a pop-up that she does, like a couple of very traditional Brazilian treats, again, sourced as locally as possible, but just kind of a fun, sweet thing. We've got a gluten-free baker that comes in, also does very specialized desserts on different days. So those are things. On the weekend, we have what we call visiting vendors, and those are people that don't have their commercial license yet. They're people that you would only be able to buy from at a farmer's market, but they stand here kind of an impromptu market, just a few of them, and they also are able to direct sell there. So that's kind of a fun hybrid, if you will, and that's something that for First Friday Art Walk, we bring in a bunch of artisans that do that. They're able to have their showcase as well. And we do participate in First Friday Art Walk with our artisans.
Which totally makes sense because it's held downtown on the first Friday, except for January and July, every first Friday. And it's so much fun to come downtown and just wander around, see, have a bite to eat, look at the art, watch some of the music. Okay, you may get a snack, of course. Always get a snack. In the back, this is a very large building, and you're expanding back there. But you mentioned something about people need a commercial kitchen space, a commercial cooking space, or a commercial, blending space. Tell us what is in the works for that.
So people might be familiar with the word commissary kitchen or a shared kitchen or even a ghost kitchen is usually, but from restaurants that are utilizing it. There are a lot of people that are kind of stuck at their level. Like, so if you, Joy, make beautiful cookies, they're wonderful, okay? You have to sell them to me directly. You still have to do food safety. You have to label it. You have to, have your ingredient list. That's all stuff that is, inspected. You have to have your business license. So all that has to happen. But you also still physically have to sell it. Your label in the story would say, not prepared in a commercial kitchen. So there's a big need for people that are, again, milling flour, anything that needs a commercial space to be left. And so the goal is then that back space, we've got a couple of workstations that then could be used as a shared kitchen. There's rules obviously on your stuff, your cookie stuff shouldn't be touching other people's, so for food sensitivities, but also contamination. So Joplin actually has a really nice shared commercial kitchen space. There are very few in this state, actually. And I think there's one in Kansas City, which is wild. In Arkansas, there's a beautiful, Spring Creek has done this really nice manufacturing. One of the goals is that we'll talk about corn again. If the sweet corn comes in and you're a grower in your yard and your area, and you know that at a farmer's market you can sell, 50 bushels of corn. That's a lot of corn. But really you could grow 100 bushels. You can't process, as soon as you cut any produce, we're back to produce now, but it's as soon as you alter it in any way, you have to do it in a commercial space. Okay, so in this story though, Joy, you did want to grow 100, but it was a rainy market. It was a rainy season. You couldn't get through it. So now, again, do you waste that food? Do you throw it away? Well, in this story, you could process it and you could then freeze that corn. And this winter, as it sells and goes through, that's as close to you for a farmer as getting a regular paycheck as we can come up with, right? So it's giving you, again, not just a different route to market, but an actual other revenue stream, still as a small producer. And then back to the shared or the commissary kitchen, you could use that as a grower, you could use it as the cookie maker, you could use it, all of these people. So there's a list of people here that would like to scale to that. So, and that's really exciting. Again, I went into this, we've only been open 8 months, but we went into this knowing that that's where we're trying to get to. Commercial kitchens are expensive. So this is where we're kind of bootstrapping as we go little by little and creating those spaces. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we are with that.
So eventually people will be able to come in I don't know, rent the space, use the space one way or the other to do what needs to happen to help them get their product out there.
Exactly. So, exactly. So, and
I just love that.
I do too. It's a way, in talking with like economic development and stuff, this is a real incubator, a true incubator. And there's a lot of energy and talk about like, for activating downtown spaces and how do we bring that business. And to me, that space around like culinary and arts is like right there, right? It's a way that people can, have a route to market, but also a space that brings them together. So there's that community feeling. There was a talk about like what if you've seen one farm stop, you've seen one farm stop. Like we said, there's these rural ones, there's city ones, there's this. But one of the things that you could say is that farm stops are producer and food forward. They are kind of mission driven. They have that component. And the upsetting the apple cart part is that the more money goes to producers. Those would be the commonalities. And then some like us, we try to bring in community events and producers and growers and classes. So that's, to me, the fun part, too.
It is. And, everybody's got to eat. And when you think about all the people around here, this beautiful land that we live on and enjoy, and they grow these wonderful things and beautiful flowers, and to be able to come in here and meet these folks who live in our area and do what they do, and it's delicious and very likely much healthier.
I really want to, when you asked about downtown, I think this is the best place to do it. I think there's sometimes a disconnect. Like this area is rich in growers and farming and ag, and it's not just the big commodity stuff. We have more like, baby mama cow ranching operations than almost anywhere. Ag is a huge thing in the state, but I'm trying to bring it back to the concept. Back to the smaller growers. And I think that remembering that's a part of this area. The Ozarks is rich in large part because of natural landscapes and this, but also part of that ties into growing capacities and food. It was always a place where you could eat, right? And settle and have that. So I think that's, for me, I do love downtown. I think it's really important to remember that part of this area and this region and celebrate it. It's not lost on me that these people that come through for Route 66 or stay in downtown for these things, they absolutely walk right in here, because wouldn't you? In any town you visited, wouldn't you, if you were in, the Minnesota Farm Stop, you'd be like, what is that? What are they growing in here, right? Or wherever you are. And we know this, any place you've traveled, I don't have to ask, I'm certain you have stopped at, if you saw a farmer's market or a location like this, even just a grocery, you kind of walk in and see what they've got going on there.
And it's so much more fun, and you get to talk to the people that are there, and you learn something about what they do and why they do it. Yes, absolutely. And and no disrespect to a big chain store, but you know what's in there. You know exactly what's in there. These other ones, you might find something. I went in, this is so neither here nor there, but I was in Door County, Wisconsin on a press trip once. And I bought in some kind of just a small boutique store that had a lot of local products. I bought this cologne. And I, to this day, can't figure out, there's really not enough label on it. And I have asked friends from Wisconsin. I've done the Google image search. I guess I'm just going to have to call the PR people that handled the tourism or department or something and say, I'm going to send you, you're going to think I'm crazy. No, I'm going to send you a picture of this, and I want you to find me more of it. Yeah. But that's just an example of something that I just happened onto. Yeah. It's a cologne, and it almost smells more like a men's cologne, but it's got a definite smoky, almost like a backyard fire scent to it, and I only spray a little bit on me or on my pillow in the wintertime. It's your special. Isn't that funny? I know it's weird, but I just will never forget that.
But that's the beauty, right, of that was highly local. It was special. Totally. It's something that clearly someone put some artistry into it.
Well, for the love of God, put a good label on it so that people like me, if they come through for Route 66, they go, oh, I know who this is. I want to hit them up.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you make a very good point, because I know people. We've got, you've got the Moxie and the Vandevort, and you've got all these people that come through Route 66 all the time from outside of the country. I bet you've had people in here from all over.
We have, and also, we get the travelers, we get the locals, we're getting the students. We're trying to remind the students, how close we are to downtown, because it's not lost on me too. I've a lot of the international students from MSU have been the first to come over here because they're used to that market culture, right? So that's been fun to see as they've come in. I've had several student groups and dietitians, and some of those naturally come over here. And there's a food collaborative that meets with the as one of the Springfield's collaborative organizations, and we've got all of this interesting stuff happening here with people really looking. You've got community gardens, you've got some of the schools, private schools, public, trying to really look at how do we source locally. I mentioned food as medicine, and some people might be like, what is that? It essentially allows doctors and physicians to look really at foods, like food as prescription, as opposed to medicine. So looking at people's diet and helping them look through, which seems so obvious, but I share that all those things are happening like right now in food access and food economy right now in this area. So it's an exciting time too. Again, we've got the Kansas City Food Hub, we've got the Spring Creek Food Hub in Arkansas. And so we're right in between, and you could consider us almost like a micro food hub. We're aggregating for some of these restaurants too are a big part. The restaurants are figuring out that we're here and that we can source to them. And that's something we've started. We've been doing that the whole time, but that's becoming more and more, because restaurants are a perfect example of, if you, Joy, are a small grower, you can't maybe commit to 20 pounds of carrots for 15 weeks, but amongst like 10 of you, I can, and I can source that way. And of course, I always want restaurants to work with people directly, but sometimes what they need, it just doesn't work out that way, right? They can't go to 20 different farms, or they know they need those carrots and you didn't know that you were going to have a insect situation or whatever. So we can make sure we can stay steady with them.
Oh, I just love that. By the way, I saw on your Facebook page that a celebrity showed up here, maybe more than one, but Tim Daly, the actor Tim Daly, was here for a movie premiere at the Moxie. It's a movie called Dust to Malibu, and he was here. He was also on the sitcom Wings on NBC, and he was a character on The Sopranos. So Tim Daly ends up in here. What, do you have lunch or something?
Yeah, he came in, he had lunch. I know that people involved with the film love this shop, and I think it sent him this way. He came in, sat down, chit-chatted, really enjoyed, actually was really interested in like things, how they're growing here, what's going on. So really, that doesn't surprise me. He's a fairly, traveled, seasoned person, and he was like, this is great. And he was very complimentary and really enjoyed it, and sat and had lunch. And yeah, that was fun. But for me, what struck me about that is that someone like that is maybe in that same way, like for me, when I came to Missouri those years ago, I was like, this farmer's market this is a wonderful example of all of this community and cool, interesting, fun stuff. And that's sometimes I think we take for granted that there is that richness here. And so, availing yourself to it and getting out and supporting things, but also doing the fun factor, right? Like smell that tomato, check out that peach, like all of that. So
I thought that was great. And we're going to wrap this up real quick, but you mentioned traveled, and I'm not going to give anything away, but there is something happening here at the Farm Stop that people are going to recognize from another location here in the 417. Can you give us a little hint of a timeline when people might come in and what they might discover at the Farm Stop?
In August, you're going to see a thing that unifies travelers and locals and is highly symbolic of where people can come together, interact, and enjoy beautiful things and concepts. So you will see that in August. That's like a teaser. That was right?
Yep. And that's all we're going to tell you. And I'm not going to say a word, even though you told me all about it. Real quick, what became of Susan Summers' mural? It was, I believe, coffee beans.
It was coffee Arabica, and the growers were the ones who pointed it right out to me. I was like, okay. So
say so.
So it is in it is going to be reassembled, and it will be also in the back space there. So it is some of the stuff, if you peek back there, that is, it was deconstructed. So for those of you who don't know, it was a large scale mural. It's beautiful on this lovely, kind of warm tinted wood. And so we had to take it piece by piece by piece. It involved lasers. If anyone's ever deinstalled a large mural, you understand it was like we had to match it up by line so that we can reassemble it line by line, plank by plank by plank by plank. So that will also be a part of August. But it's in the answer is it is in numbered rows and columns of hundreds of pieces of wood in sequence with like Sharpie on the back and Post-its that are indicating what piece it is. So,
but bottom line, the beautiful mural survived.
Yes.
Even though it is not where it used to be, it survived and it will be back. I cannot thank you enough for taking time to talk to me. Visit Ozarks Farm Stop downtown at South and Walnut. Karissa Kary, thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I'd love to see everybody coming out, like I said, 6 days a week, and lunch brunch is Wednesday through Sunday. I just say that because sometimes people show up on Tuesday, but Tuesday we're open, so come and see us, but Wednesday through Sunday is when we have all the goodies for food.
Okay, I'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Be sure to go to AroundTheOzarks.com to sign up for our daily newsletter where you can get every episode of Savor the Ozarks, plus all our other podcasts, events, and contests straight to your inbox. And what are your favorite dishes in the 417? You have any restaurants you'd like me to visit? Email me at joy@AroundTheOzarks.com.